It is 5:30. I have call public works meeting for November 12th order. For the roll call, Alder Bellinger. Here. Alder Rusk. Present. Alder Rainey. Here. And Alder Peterson is excused. And Alder Decker is here. So we'll start with pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. It's okay with everybody. Let's give introductions and everything. I'll go with everyone here. So we'll go on to item number 5, approval of minutes from October 29th, 2024. So moved. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah. Can get closed. Chair votes aye, minutes are approved. Items for possible discussion, the resolution number 111, 2425, resolution approving the Fulton Park conceptual design plan. So, start with Joe.
Architecture here today, but this started, the city hired architecture at the beginning of the year with the goal of making a conceptual design. Basically it was discussed that, we have some aging infrastructure, band shell, definitely the fountain, and then the need to want to improve the area. We have a farmer's market that is very busy, but a lot of concerns that go with it and how to make it better. So architecture was hired earlier this year. They did a couple site visits. They met with stakeholders. We identified several stakeholders for them to meet with. At a community meeting, and they presented about 3 concepts. And they met with the Marina Parks and Forestry last week. And the plan that he's going to run through is what we're presenting tonight. I will turn it over to Blake.
Thanks, Joe. Good introduction. Guys, I'm Blake with Architecture. I think I've met some of you at the public meeting and other doings. So I'll jump into it. I know you've got other things on your agenda, but this is a very fun and exciting thing to talk about. So hopefully you can see my screen.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll run through some of the upfront items. So when we started, we spent some time getting to know both the site itself and the goals for the project. As Joe alluded to, there were a lot of stakeholders that we interviewed, and I'm just going to flip through here so you can see some of the takeaways for the goals and kind of the character that we were trying to achieve. I'll highlight some of these. Lighting was a big one. Different seating nodes for different activities and abilities to gather. Go back. Water, of course, is a big one, being that it's Fountain Park. So we ended up settling on 2 different water elements instead of just one, and we'll get into that. And then the farmers market, of course, is a major stakeholder and player, and so a lot of the design was driven around their needs and desires for the future. So as Joe said, we developed 3 kind of bubble diagram concepts. I think those of you who were at the public meeting have seen these. The ring concept, which was a circuitous kind of farmers market loop. The triangle, which really centered a lot of activity here in the middle and on 8th Street, and then made use of the slant walks that are currently used, especially in the Northwest. And then the T concept, which again tried to draw a lot of energy into the middle of the park. And at the end of the day, a hybrid, we heard a lot of really good feedback at the PIM in July. Captured all of that, of course, on our image boards. A lot of great voting, a lot of good dialogue, and ended up with the preferred concepts, which we kind of kept the moniker of the ring, just because that was really the defining piece, was this perimeter farmers market promenade, if you will. The center of the park is anchored by a 4-season building, which has the ability to open up on both sides to allow full passage through the park east to west. We have our kind of classic throwback fountain of our original park design up in the front by 8th, with an interactive water feature in the center plaza. And then our event lawn, which is now anchored by the smaller version of the band shell, was ultimately decided that the existing band shell is going to be removed. There was enough sort of issues with it that it felt like it needed to move on to greener pastures. So the refined plan, once we actually got it into real world on the site, a lot of those same elements are here. Right? Here's the farmers market promenade. See how the tents all stack up. The classic fountain, the plaza space with farmer covered trellis structures, which can function for farmers market use as well as kind of special programming in this whole zone. And of course, they're all connected with catenary lighting for nighttime usage. And then here you can see the new amphitheater band shell at the west end of the great lawn. A couple other points I'll highlight here. The existing Civil War memorial will remain just as it is. We are proposing a relocation of the Spanish War memorial, which sits about here up into the northeast corner to provide some symmetry of the geometry that we have in the southeast. So now our eastern corners would both be anchored by memorials, which feels very appropriate. In the space of the old band shell, we've now introduced a food truck alley. And so this would be elevated at the same grade as the upper park area. So we have food truck access, other loading zones for the band. Just becomes kind of a multi-function space here in the southwest corner. And of course, we've tried to maintain as much flexible open space within the park as we can. I use the term designing with rooms a lot, and you can see we have lots of different rooms in the park for different activities, gathering spaces. So we've tried to activate the park for not just farmers market days, but really 12 months of the year and lots of different opportunity of activity. The other piece I'll highlight here is on 8th Street. We are proposing bump outs on both sides in the middle of the park to then connect through the alley here to the public parking on the east side of the buildings. And we see this as not just an alley, but it's an enhanced corridor with lighting and murals and other kind of more inviting spaces to again make this stronger connection through. So what I'd like to do is just walk through a couple of our modeled images. We've built this whole thing in 3D, so I might as well share them with you because it's fun. So here's the view looking to the west. This is 8th Street, of course, in the foreground. I'm just going to swing around clockwise. This is looking to the north. Looking back to the east, now you can see how that alley becomes a key feature, okay, connecting everything. Looking to the south. And I'm going to fuse different angles here. I wanted to show you the relationship of the new band shell and this four-season building. As I mentioned, we envision this wall to be glass garage doors that could open up and allow site passage from this space all the way through the building into the plaza. We envision the band shell to be a flexible space that can function as a backdrop for performances with these rotating panels in the flat position. But then when it's not being used for special events or performances, you can rotate them 90 degrees and pin them. So that allows for light and air movement and pedestrian movement through. And this just becomes a flexible picnic space or covered shelter. We have kind of adopted this gull-wing design to sort of mimic some of the geometry that we see, in Sheboygan on the lake with either seagulls or sailboats, but this kind of nautical nod here in the roof line. I'll highlight real quickly some of the other rooms. If this four-season building in the center wants to take on a life of some sort of concessionaire, whether it be city programmed or you could implement a small beer garden, or maybe it's a lunchtime eatery. We've got 2 locations for that. We also have a game room located next to that beer garden space with concrete bag toss, potentially ping pong and other adult-oriented games. And here you can see how the central plaza starts to work with the classic fountain and then our interactive water feature in the ground plane that would not only have water elements, but it would also have lighting. And so all of the ground jets would be lit at night. And so we have a kind of a glowing ambiance in here from the ground and above with our catenary string lights. As I mentioned, lighting was a very important piece that we took away from all the input we gathered, and of course your downtown lighting study, which was well done. So we wanted to make sure we were honoring some of those elements that have been produced and tested here. So just another view, you can start to see how the farmers market engages with the central plaza and the fountain space. And of course, I mentioned earlier that the 12-month draw, we really felt that this design allows you to activate the space all months of the year. When the fountain is not in use, it could become a lit sculptural piece. This is just one idea of some sort of metallic lit tree for the winter to bring some color and some vibrancy and a vertical element into the landscape. We've also explored the use of artificial ice to create a skating ribbon around the fountain and potentially toying with the idea of half pitch lanes. And so this is going to be a competitive facility, of course, but the idea is that everyone can come out and try their hand and see what the buzz is all about with curling. And when it's not being used for curling, of course, it's just flat ice that anyone can recreationally skate. So nice shot here of the close-up. You can see the building in the background. Another view, those lights really become important in winter, of course, to as you know, it's now 5:30 and it's pitch black outside. So both of our beer garden areas also have catenary lights. So again, trying to bring the lighting into all the different rooms of the space. I think those are my highlight shots. I'll pause, Joe. What have I missed?
I don't think you missed too much. The goal is to move this on to the city council for approval. We are looking for a pretty fast turnaround this year yet for entering into a contract for schematic design, final detailed design in preparation for construction documents. So with some available monies, ARPA funds at this time, this could move to that step, those next steps fairly quick if approved.
I would just make a quick comment. Marina Parks and Forestry was John. We're very positive with this concept. I think the one caveat, the one thing that they were a little concerned with was the curling in the location of the curling. The idea of having the curling was great, but the possibly maybe having the curling off on one of the sides separate from the skating, because of the fact you're rolling the stones out there, people are ice skating out there. So that's one thing that maybe if we could possibly look at making that change, because I really think that it was a positive change that they did add at the
we did look into it, and we think we could give you the curling lanes either on either the south spine or potentially the north spine. I think that would work quite well. And if we really needed more geometry, we could look at the west spines.
Okay.
But we want to try and keep this area flexible in case you had a winter festival or something else. But I think there is opportunity for sure.
Okay. Right.
If I could make a comment on that visual you had showing the bump outs on 8th Street, I really like that because it makes pedestrians more visible and it shortens their crossing time. But my only question that I kind of have is it seems odd not to have those bump outs also connect the rest of 8th Street there, because there's that would just make it easier for pedestrians to cross to access all the businesses near that area on 8th. And it would just make it more visible. Cars wouldn't be parked so close to that intersection. Seems like if you're going to be modifying them in any way, it'd be great to also include the sort of the 8th Street section in that. So that was my only comment.
So you're talking about
Yeah, I think on page 7, yeah, so there's,
Erie, that intersection.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, but-
Erie.
yeah,
They have
the
like,
north and south sides.
they said they do have a bump out.
They have the bump out on 8th Street, but not on the intersecting roads. So like, if you're gonna cross, say, going north or south on 8th to access any of those businesses, that crossing is almost double the length, as if you're to just cross 8th Street itself. So it seems like it'd be nice just to have that pedestrian, access a little bit easier for people.
Talking about here.
Yeah, both the north and south sides, but yes, those two intersections with the bump out.
Got it. Okay, so you like the bump out here, but you would like to see improvements made on the north and the south side of the adjacent intersections.
Right, yeah, those two crossings that are very long in comparison to the one on 8th Street, that would be great just to see that be consistent on both.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Good comment.
Go ahead.
I have maybe a couple questions, comments. The things like with the curling and the ice skating, is the idea that the city would own the stones or the skates and rent them out, or who's coming with their own stones?
So at this time, at least through the process, there's the possibility of having an open concession stand. And yes, possibility of renting skates, items needed during certain times. That's a possibility.
That's a possibility. And I know you did talk with the Sheboygan Pops about the band shell so I would just, when that space is being designed, please, communicate with the people who actually use it, bands and things like that, just so it can be designed optimally. I would recommend even bringing in sound engineers who, just that would be a big. And also along those lines with the food truck alley, I would be curious if we're thinking about putting in power there, so the food trucks don't have to use generators, which is such amazing noise pollution. So having power like we do have down at Levitt would be something I would bring up.
Yeah, that's a good comment. When we do dedicated food truck areas, we do try and put in power pedestals to eliminate the need for those generators, because they're terrible, let's be honest.
They are awful. And if there's music happening the same time with that, it would be great, so.
Yeah.
Thanks for the comment on the design of the building. So I'm a former touring musician. I played a lot of stages like this, so I get it. I will say I've been out of the game for a few years, but technology has changed. So we definitely bring in companies like Fearings Audio, to help design sound systems for things like this. But
And like load in and load out for the bands and things like that, those logistical things a lot of times get missed. So just,
you got it.
thank you.
Yeah.
I like the look.
Yeah.
That looks great.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a big improvement.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's really nice. I think it's.
I would say that the process has been terrific. Feedback, dialogue back and forth has really been great. It made our job, I don't want to say easy, but it made it fun to get the concept pulled together. So thank you on behalf of architecture.
John, go ahead.
Do we have any dollar figure for this?
We've started running some budget estimates. We've actually engaged with a couple contractors to get their opinions. One of them being Quashus, who's about a block from this site. They're building several structures for us now, and we think that we're somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.5 million, so somewhere plus minus. So we've had numbers up to 5 and some down in the low 4s, but we think we're somewhere in that neighborhood.
And
And of course, that will depend on what finishes and materials are used for the buildings and all that, but generally speaking.
and my other question is there been any collaboration with the marina project? And I mean, so we're not having competing or, I mean, that's my only. I think what you've come up with looks wonderful, and it looks real good. But that would be my only thing that we somehow have some kind of collaboration between these two big projects that we've got going on, so we're not competing against each other, who's gonna get what and that type of thing, so.
Yeah, I have not had, we had interviewed with them right out of the gate, I guess, a little discussion, but there hasn't been anything recent since our project is developed, and I don't know the status of theirs. Joe, maybe we can touch base on that.
Yeah, and I will say the community meeting that we had for this, there was a lot of people that went to both and gave, you know, their thoughts on, just an example, ice ribbon this is the great place for the ice ribbon compared to
Yes.
where sand is blowing. And, you know, so
Yeah.
there was a lot of good comments like that, but yes, I think that was even brought up for, when they were doing theirs, that we should, the city will need to work with both of them to work. things out.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be the general thoughts that it would be better suited here, not
Yeah.
there on top.
I would,
Yeah.
I would encourage that this is a better, much better spot
Much
than down. Even weather-wise, you get that cold chill off the lake, and yes, I know you're ice skating, but it's still, it's a different chill, it's a different cold, it's a different wind blowing off that lake, which I think in the downtown, in Fulton Park like that, I think is gonna be just a better location for this, to be honest with you.
I think the sand's a disaster.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
disaster.
sure.
Ice and sand don't
Yeah.
mix.
No, so, even if it's fake sand, or even if it's fake ice, it's still gonna be, it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's gonna be friction. Yeah, it's gonna be.
So,
Yeah, no, it's great. I love it.
That's great.
anyone else with questions, comments?
Adding on to that, I think having this space activated will encourage people to shop in those businesses on Eighth, and I think that just seems great for anybody on that street.
Thank you. Thank you. So I guess I would be looking for a motion.
Just one other question.
Sure.
Do we know, Joe, what we have as far as ARPA funds, what would be available?
It sounds like at this time,
Figure.
yep, that we would have enough to move, if again, through the council, we would have enough to move ahead with schematic design, which would be next, the final detailed design, and then start the preparation of the construction documents. Approximately to $289.
Okay,
And that would all come from our fund. So that could get wrapped up and approved this year. Awesome.
It's the one line for grants.
Yeah,
Yeah, so then the construction part of it, yes. Parkland dedication fees, different grants. Yeah, we've already sat down and talked about several different items.
and then the TID, and then TID.
Did, yep,
Take care of the rest.
exactly right.
Okay, so this would not be a burden on the.
Right,
on the
really.
There is the whole point behind this, is not gonna be a tax burden.
I move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Try.
I hear there's an open. Too soon.
All righty, number 7, item number 82, 2425, a report by Marina Parks and Forestry, to whom reviewed the Fulton Park conceptual design plan, recommends that the Public Works Committee that the plan be approved. I believe this would just be filed, correct?
Second.
Okay, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, that is approved. Number 8, resolution number 114, 2425, a resolution authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter into a contract for the demolition of the former Wells Fargo Bank building and related site features so as to prepare the site for redevelopment.
move to approve.
She goes through a little bit. Let's talk a little bit. Who's in charge of this?
That'd be me. Okay, Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you. This is not nearly as glitzy or glamorous as what we just looked at. You're all familiar with the bank building downtown. We've been working on it for a few months now to prepare it for demolition. The abatement of asbestos and lead and all that other good stuff is nearing closure. We have put out bids for the demolition of the structure. We made a little bit of a change. We bisected the property, so what we're approving tonight will demolish basically the west half of the parcel, which is the building. The east half is really just some parking lots. However, it was brought up that there's drainage, stormwater drainage in those parking lots. As well as a pretty good swale that collects a lot of water. That plus the fact that our friends from the Art Center have become accustomed to utilizing that lot for their employees. So we elected to take care of the west half this year. And in spring, once the west half is back to being basically settled and stormwater free, then we will go ahead and put out a separate bid to remove the parking lot pavements and whatnot prior to the developer taking over the site. So what this will do is basically, as I said, bisects the property north to south and east to west, almost into 4 equal quadrants, and takes care of everything west. And then in spring, we'll go ahead and take care of the eastern half. That also prevented us from having to apply for a stormwater WPBES permit with the DNR. So plus it gives the having that pavement north side of the property. On the east side is the contractor, the demolition of a place to work and take care of things. That's what it's for. The bids came in. We got the 5 bids. Highest was 1.3 million. And the whole bid from Scott's Excavating in Sheboygan Falls was 241.5. I've worked with Scott over the years on a number of demolition projects for the city. Excellent contractor, walks his talk, gets the job done, gets out. So we're recommending approval of the contract with him, and most likely we'll be starting right away, probably right in first part of December.
One quick question on it, is I'm an old guy, I remember how they used to be. Just north of there, where the drive-throughs and stuff were on that area. I recall that was a Firestone before that, possibly a gas station.
The other good one?
There was a Firestone tire.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
And there was a gas station possibly there before that. So how
One of the
that part of it.
One of the things we're doing, the city was able to take advantage of a county brownfield grant,
Okay.
and they paid for the lead and asbestos survey part, the testing.
Sure.
The city has also now gone ahead and been able to secure some of that grant money for a phase 2 environment study.
Okay.
That the grant took care of the phase 1 and the actual inspection. Phase 2 will happen following demolition.
Okay.
And they're well aware of the old Firestone station. If you recall, there was also some contamination on the former Boston store site. When we took down the Boston store a number of years ago, we found a very large fuel tank that no one even knew existed. And there was some leakage there. Stantec, who's the company doing the phase 1, did the phase 1 and is doing the phase 2, is well aware of all of that. And they will be doing the phase 2 environmental. But it's hard to do when there's a building there, there. But everybody understands that it's on the downhill side of where the Firestone was, so. So yes, that is being looked at, and that may change some things as far as development in the future and what can be done there.
All right, questions?
I have two things. One, I would love if the Sheboygan Historical Museum could somehow be a part. I know I just had a tour there, and they have like the center core of the armory. They have some of those things. So this would be kind of an historic building. If there was something that that museum could have to preserve that, I don't know what that could be, but.
Yeah, one of the things we found tucked behind some mechanical equipment was a very large scrapbook. And it was clippings from when Citizens Bank opened back in 1957. I quickly grabbed that and took it out to the Historical Research Center.
Great.
And they were very happy to have it. I don't know how much might be in there that would be of historical significance.
I think the glass, I think that'd be really, really hard.
Yeah.
But that is an innovative thing that, that architect, was known for.
Yeah.
So I'm just dreaming big.
I mean, I could certainly talk to Travis.
Yeah.
And get him in there.
Travis isn't there anymore.
Oh,
Now it's Brett.
okay,
Yes, so there was a new ED.
okay.
Yeah, but, I know that he'd be really interested.
We can certainly get him in there
I just want to make sure that we at least.
and let
try.
him look around.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Sure.
And then just secondly, and this is for anybody, I've got, several people coming to me going, why can't the city save this building? Can someone, I think I understand it, but how is everyone talking about why we can't save this city and, or save this, this building and how what that looks like? So a couple bullet points I would appreciate.
Yeah, it's a unique building. There's no question about that. There is a full basement in the building. And I classify the basement as being amazing, which means it's a maze. So you get down there. Lose track of exactly where you are at any given point. It's all cut up, changed. As far as saving it, the building was for sale for, I think, the better part of 1.5 to 2 years. There was no interest.
I think there's like $10 million if you were actually gonna renovate it and make it, right?
There are major water.
He looked at it, the Kohler Foundation looked at it for an office building, so, and full disclosure, that's where I work. So, that is just what a lot of people I'm hearing from us, and that's what I said, the way I understand it was gonna be $10 million to make the building usable. Okay, all right, so make sure I was not talking.
And that's not any different than what we ran into with the Sheboygan Armory.
Yeah. Yep, that's what I figured. Right.
All it takes is money.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question is, where does it come from?
So, years ago, I was chairman of the building use committee and we were charged with looking at a space, either property or a different venue or refurbishing. At that time, we looked at Wells Fargo, we toured the whole thing. Bernie's right, it is a maze down there, and that's where the employee lunchroom was, or break room was down there, but it's got multi-levels and stuff too. It's really, really goofy the way it's laid. It's architecturally, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But it's goofy the way the interior of it is. And for the city, I mean, they seriously considered it. And then they looked at it and they said, to redo what they needed to do and how they would have to configure, it became so cost prohibitive. And I think, Mike, the HVAC was a train wreck too.
Correct. The basements of the basements of the train run, because it is leaking.
Yeah.
So the electrical power, it's
Yeah.
line voltage, primary power coming into the building. There's 12,400 volts of electricity inside the building, which is very strange. You walk in the power room and you feel a very definitive hum. There's a lot of heat and your hair kind of on your arms kind of stands up.
Great, no, I appreciate that, this, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just, it comes down to, you know, yes, we want to preserve historical buildings to a point, but it gets to be a point where it's just not feasible. And I said it, and that's why it's sat for 2 years, because no one could feasibly make it work for them to make it into a practical use building. I mean, and that's just the issue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? For a motion then?
Second.
I made one already.
Yeah, so, okay. There's a second. Okay, any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, chair votes aye. That is approved. All right, next meeting date is November 26, 2024. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, chair votes aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.